So I don't know if you're like me, but especially during the summertime, I cannot stand mowing the yard. And the way that the grass grows down here is pretty much as soon as you cut it, within 3 to 4 days, it's begging for you to cut it again. So that's why I was so interested in this product right here, which is the Mammotion Luba 5000. So if you're interested in freeing up some time to where you can spend more time with family, maybe just sit around the house, then that's what this video is going to be all about. So let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so let's go over some of the really key features of this. So let's just first of all take a look at these front wheels. As you can see, these front wheels also have wheels then going side to side. These are Omni wheels. And what this is going to allow for this to do is when it goes to make its turns, these are going to allow for it to turn sharper, and it's going to do a better job of not rutting up the yard. On top of that, I definitely believe that these add more traction to the wheels, so it's less likely to get stuck. Speaking of the wheels, each one of the wheels is independently driven. This is all-wheel drive, so you won't have too much of a concern of this getting stuck since each one of those wheels is spinning independently. Something else that's cool about this is up here on the front, you've actually got shock absorbers. So as it's going over bumps, it's able to absorb that. The rear tires are also all-terrain, so that helps with it getting in tough spaces. If we lift the Luba up and look at the bottom side, you can see our mower deck here, and we have 2 discs that spin, and they literally have 4 razor blades on each one of those discs. The mower deck itself can be raised and lowered within Luba's app, and the cutting heights that it's capable of are between 30 and 70 millimeters. Or for those of us that are here in the United States, that is just over an inch all the way up to 2.75 inches. It also has some really cool safety features on it. These are basically acting as sensors so that it doesn't run into anything that you don't want it to. And along with the front bumper, when this hits something and it depresses this bumper, it also knows obviously it's hit something and it needs to go around it. So the first thing I want to start getting set up is the charging station. And what's great about the Mammotion app is it's going to walk you through everything step by step, along with the instructions that are included with the Luba. All right, so now that I've got the recharging and base station all hooked up and anchored down into the ground, now it's time to install the RTK system. Now the RTK system is what is really going to allow for the Luba to know exactly where it's going. The Luba operates off of GPS, and with this RTK system, this is going to be able to send those GPS coordinates to where it's just more accurate, to where it's more precise and actually going along the lines and boundaries of exactly where you want it to. Now there are 2 ways you can go about mounting this. The first way, and probably the easiest way to mount this, is by using this included mounting pole. Down at the bottom you'll see it looks like a trident, and this pole would then get mounted directly into the base station right here. You'd run your wire up the pole and then connect the RTK up here at the top. But in my case, I'm going to elect to mount it to my eave here, because the higher up the RTK is, the better signal it's going to get, and it's also going to allow for the signal to be dispersed out to the Luba a little bit better. As far as when installing the RTK system, the most important thing is making sure it has a clear view of the sky. All right, so now this is the part where we can actually create boundaries within the app. And it's really easy to do. We're gonna go to Create Modify, and then we're gonna click on Add a Task Area. Then after that, we're just gonna drive this thing around the property all along the borders like we would in our RC car. The controls are gonna be on the screen of your phone and communicating with the Luba in real time. Now, while I'm driving the Luba around my property, making the perimeter, I can look at my screen and in real time see where it's recording where it's been. It is mapping out the property perfectly based on GPS signals, whereas before you would have to actually run underground wire in order for your robotic lawnmower to know where to stop or where to go. Well, this is far easier to do, and in some respects it's actually kind of fun because it is kind of like you're driving an RC car. All right, so there you go. We've completed the task of outlining the main area of my property. As you can see on the map, the filled in green area is what we've outlined, and I've got a little bit of an odd shaped property, but this just goes to show that this can be used on any shape of yard that you might have. All right, so this is an area of my yard that I did not take the Luba in, so it doesn't know that it needs to mow it. That's because it's completely encapsulated within the concrete sidewalk and then the house. So I'm going to create an extra zone here. All right, so in order to do this, I'm going to go into the app again. I'm going to click on Edit. I'm I'm going to put create modify. Then I'm going to add a task area. Now that I've done that, now I can drive around the part of the new zone that I want to create, just like I did with the original zone. And again, I'm going to try and keep it as close as I can to the edge. Therefore, I have less of an edge to have to string trim later. But now I need to create a channel connecting the first zone to the second zone so that the Luba knows exactly where to go into that second zone and how to get there. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into the app again. I'm going to hit create modify. I'm going to click on add a channel, and then I'm just going to simply drive the Luba across the sidewalk connecting the two task areas. All right, so now that the Luba has connected the two task areas, we now have a channel so that the Luba can get to the second task area. We can now click save. So same thing you would do if you have a front and a backyard. Say you have a fence that needs to be opened, you'd create two different task areas, but then create that channel going through the gate into the backyard. All right, so to set up a no-go zone, I'm just going to go back into the app again like I always have. And now I'm going to add a no-go zone. Then once I've clicked on that, now I just need to trace out the border of my garden bed. This can be used for anything that you need to use it for. Garden beds, around pools, around trees, around sheds, anything within the task boundaries, you can put a no-go zone so that this mower knows that it does not need to even try to mow there. It'll show up as a yellow spot on the map depending on the shape, and those are going to designate your no-go zones. Now before we get started with testing the lawnmower, one thing I want to note is I let my grass grow extra long to truly put this to the test. So I fully expect for the Luba to take 2 or 3 mows before it's going to start getting that grass looking the way that you really want it to go, just because of how high I've let this grass already grow. All right, so in order to get this thing started in mowing, we're going to go into the Mammotion app. We're going to click on mow. Now we can select which type of task settings we want to have. Do we want to set it for high grass, or we can even customize our settings as far as how fast it goes. We can slow it down so it goes a little bit slower, cuts in an area a little bit longer. We can also change the cutting route spacing. We can also change the obstacle detecting mode. Now I can also set my cutting height. So because this is the first pass and because I've let my grass grow up so tall, I'm not going to set this at a very low setting. I want to be able to take off the top layer first, get it all started, and then come in with a second mow and have it cut a little bit shorter. So I'm going to set my cutting height at 2.6. In this menu, I can also set up a schedule. And for me personally, I'm going to have this thing mowing probably around twice a week. So in order to get this mowing right now, I'm going to go to mow. Then I can click on start. And off it goes to start mowing. And it's mowing right now. And as you can tell, it is not very loud at all. I mean, I'm able to just speak to you with a normal voice and really have no interruption whatsoever. Now, for those of you that have kids or pets and you're worried about just this mindless robot that has blades on it running around your yard, accidentally hitting them and cutting them up, rest assured it has multiple sensors on it for safety so that if it runs into you, that front bumper compresses and it will go around whatever it just ran into. And then it just goes right back to work. Now, on top of having the safety of the front bumper, we talked a little bit earlier about these sensors that are up here on top. There are 4 sensors. You've got 2 that are facing out to either side, and then 2 on top that face out forward. I found these to be incredibly sensitive to any items that are sitting up a little bit higher. These sensors can be on, and it just adds an extra layer of protection against it hitting anything that you don't want it to. It is doing a really great job. You can see that there are perfect lines still, and it's bringing the grass height down to a very even level. It looks really, really good. And I've really had no issues with the Luba, other than sometimes it might get stuck on a big stick. That's my fault. I didn't get it picked up and out of the way. Outside of that, it has run really, really well. Now, if it is gonna rain, I'm probably gonna send the Luba to its home just so that it's kind of out of the elements. It can handle them. I've tested it in it, but just like a regular lawnmower, it's not going to do as good of a job with the grass being soaking wet. In the app, you have the option to have it automatically return to base when it starts raining, or you can also turn that option off. And speaking of protecting the lawnmower from the elements, we know that it's capable of being rained on and all of that. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a great thing for it to happen all the time. You can purchase as an added accessory this roof that goes on the home base or the charging station. So this will protect it from just constantly being rained on, but in my opinion, more than that, it protects it from the UV light coming from the sun. And as we all know, most things over time will degrade if exposed to the sun and that UV light on a regular basis. Even if it's made for it, it's going to discolor it, it's going to start making things more brittle. So there are a lot of advantages to either making your own cover or purchasing this cover and just adding it to the base station, just adding that extra protection to your Luba. Now another accessory you can get for your Luba are these stickers right here. And these are gonna make your mower look like a Formula One racing car. These are actually a really durable vinyl that can actually help to protect the Luba from getting all scratched up as you're using it throughout the years. Now one thing I have not mentioned yet in the video that I know I'm gonna get a lot of questions about, and that is how long does the battery last? And my experience was that it would run and mow the yard for about 3 hours. It would automatically go back to its charging station at around 13% of battery life, and it would take about an hour to recharge, go back out and start mowing again for about another 3 hours. So what is my overall opinion of this new Mammotion Luba 5000 robotic lawnmower? I am beyond impressed with how quickly it was able to handle all of the things that I threw at it, between throwing it out in the rain, mowing wet grass, having it mow bahia grass that hasn't been mowed in well over 2 weeks. That is extremely thick grass with about 2 foot tall seed heads. And now the yard looks fantastic. Everything is uniform, nice straight lines everywhere you go. And of course, like always, I'll have links for every single thing that you saw in this video down in the description down below. Everything from the Luba 5000 lawnmower. They also have smaller models for smaller yards, so they're a little bit less expensive. That might be something you'd be more interested in. And on top of that, I'll have all the accessories that I showed in the video as well. Now, if you found this video to be interesting, I'm gonna post a link to a video right over here where I'm gonna go over some really important techniques and just some things that every homeowner should know in order to just make your home a better place. So I hope that you found this video to be interesting. If you did, if you could do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button right down below. And of course, if you have any questions or comments still, you can leave those down in the comment section. And I'll catch you all in the next one. See ya.